Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 list. This week's top 10 list is a playoff of last week. Last week I did the top 10 large size notes a beginner should probably think about getting into their collection. And I know some of those notes were a little more expensive, a little more pricey than what you may have been expecting, but there are also small size notes that should be in your collection. So I pulled out 10 of these. So if you're just getting started in the hobby, these are my top 10 small size notes you should probably have examples of. So let's get started on these. Number 10, the first note I have in hand, this happens to be a 1935G silver certificate. The 1935G is not an expensive note at all. In rough condition, these are $3. But if you can find one that's a little nicer, or if you get one with a star, now you're starting to talk with a little bit of money. This particular one is a 64, and I want to say it's likely in the $150 range. But yeah, that's a graded note. You can find one ungraded and most likely circulated and pay under $10 for one. What makes this note so fascinating, though, is this is the first note that happens to have "In God We Trust." Now, you can also get a 1935G that does not have the motto on the back. And that's what always fascinates me about this particular series. Is there anything special about the series? No, nothing other than some of them have the motto and some don't. So if you're looking for an easy start to your collection and you want to pick up notes that you can actually have something to say about, well, there you go. The 1935G series, both with and without the motto. And if you get one with a star, then all of a sudden now you've got something that's worth a little bit more money that you'd be willing to share with people. That's number 10 on my list. Number 9. This is just a cool series. This is the 1934 $1 silver certificate. Now the entire 34 series all have these bright blue numerals right here. You can get the $1, the $5, and the $10 to complete the series. But the $1 is actually the most expensive note, dollar for dollar. This particular one is in pretty nice shape, and it's also known as the funny back. It's known that because the back of this and the 1928, you're talking 1928 to 1934. That short time period is when this back existed. Starting in 1935, they went to this back. And the front didn't change from 1935 all the way to it's still the same front we use now. But anyway, if you're talking the mid-50s, you have a bank teller going through a strap of singles, and every once in a while they would see a back that looked like this. And that just looked kind of funny compared to what we're used to. That's how these got the nickname the funny back. These and the 1928s. But I'm specifically talking about the 1934 with the blue seal here because those were only available for 1 year. And with all that being said, these are relatively cheap. You can get these for anywhere from $20 to $50, maybe a little more if they're in nice condition, but a good add to your collection and really just a way to make a silver certificate look beautiful. It's too bad they didn't keep that up. Big seal on this side, big blue digit here. That one is number 9 on my list. Number 8. While we're talking about funny backs, here is the 1928 silver certificate. You'll notice they moved the blue seal from this side to this side. Actually, I have that backwards. The seal clearly started on this side in 1928, and then 1934 they moved it over here. You can see here this one also has the same back as the 34, but this was the first small size silver certificate. So when you're talking about firsts, yeah, of course you want to have one of these. Also going to be in a similar price range, especially if it's in nicer condition. So that means you can get one, graded 65 EPQ, and it would be affordable, and it has meaning in your collection, being the first small size note. So definitely worth adding to the collection. That one is number 8. Number 7, I have emergency currency from World War II. Now, there's both the Hawaii note, which has the black overprint of Hawaii here and a black overprint of Hawaii on the back. And there is the North Africa version of the same note. This is going to have the yellow seal with the blue letters. Nowhere on this note does it say North Africa. Now, these two notes both happen to be stars. You can see the star here and the star here, so I know these are in rough condition. but there weren't many stars printed. So that's one way to take a note that has, if this doesn't have a star, you're talking, $40 to $60. Same with this. With the star, now all of a sudden you're talking triple digits without a problem. So if you don't want to spend, $75 on just a plain one, if you'd rather have a little bit more money invested, look for a star. If you're not worried about a star and just want a piece of history, some of these in rough condition you can get for $25-$30. So that's another way to add a note with significance to your collection fairly cheaply. So the emergency currency notes from both Hawaii and North Africa, World War II emergency currency, that one is number 7 on my list. Number 6. There are the experimental notes. Now, these can get a little pricey. You can see this is the 1935A experimental note, and this one is the R. In the experiment, what they did is they took 1,000,000 notes and they stamped a red R on them, and these were the control notes. These were regular notes, and they put these out in circulation, and they wanted to compare how these would wear compared to the S notes. The S notes, they used a special paper. They used a special coating on the paper. And they wanted to see if that coating made these notes last longer in circulation. So by making 1,000,000 of these and then 1,000,000 of these and releasing them out into the wild, they hoped that after a year or so they could recall all these notes and do a comparison. The problem is everybody saw the S and the R on these notes and noticed that was unusual, so they started saving them. People knew the S was the special note, so everybody saved the S notes. Not as many as the R's were saved, which means that there are fewer R notes than S notes. That makes the R notes slightly more valuable. You can't tell the difference looking at them, so you know that this one's special because of the S, this one's just regular. But to find the R note, like I said, is a little tougher. Everybody wanted this. Nobody wanted these. If you're going to get them, you kind of have to get the pair. How do you get one without the other? And in rough condition, these are going to go for $100, $150 a piece. In nice condition, they're going to be significantly more. But once again, another interesting portion of American banknotes that you probably want to add to your collection. That one is number 6. Number 5. When you talk about some of the older notes from 1950 on back, a lot of those have some real collectability, and some of them not so much. But if you're looking to have an older note and make it worth a little bit more, consider looking for an older star note. Now, the older star notes, as you can see here, it is a very large star and it's a solid star. If I was to grab my silver certificate that I had, here it is. Yeah, look at the star here versus the star here. They're on different sides. There you go. Now you can see how small modern stars, I say modern, this is from the 1950s. 35G was actually printed in 57. So here's a 1950 star versus a 1934 star. Actually, I think the 1950 series is this big as well. So just to see that giant filled star like that on some of the older notes, that's going to bring a lot of extra money to what would normally be a standard note. So that is one thing I would look for, the older stars, not just because they're stars, but because the star is different, and that's what makes it interesting. That one's number 5. Number 4, speaking of older small size notes, here's a 1928A. The $5, the $10, the $20, the $50, and the $100 from the 1928 series did not use a letter for the district. They used a number. They used the letter in the serial number, so there's the A, but in this seal, they used a numeral. They only did that on the 1928 and some of the 1928As. So it's always cool to see the notes that have the numeral there, and that makes them different. So it makes them a little more interesting. The prices are a little higher on those, and they're fun to have in your collection. So once again, when you were talking about small size notes that you should have in your collection, put a set of these together. That one is number 4. And of course, the very familiar back on these as well. Did I show the back of the 10? There's the back of the 10. And you can see here they've got a different, they've got the cars out in front instead of the horses. But Anyway, that one is number 4. Number 3, another $10 bill. Here's a $10 gold certificate from 1928. In 1928, there were $20 gold coins that were 1 ounce of gold, but you could also get a $10 gold coin. And rather than carrying around all that weight, you could actually get gold certificates. These were backed by gold and, of course, redeemable in gold. You were able to cash these out for those $10 gold coins. You get that gold seal here. You get the gold serial numbers. The back is still green, so if you were flipping through the notes and just looking at the backs, you'd never know this was a gold certificate. There is no difference at all. But looking at the front, that most certainly stands out. This certifies that there have been deposited in the Treasury of the United States of America $10 in gold coin. Yes, we used gold coins. So the $10 is the lowest denomination that you can find for gold certificates. That makes this the most affordable gold certificate you can get. I'm still on the hunt for the 50 and the 100. I do have a 20, but not the 50 and the 100. Those are still next on my list to purchase. So getting the 10 is easy enough. The other ones, they can be a struggle. So that one is number 3. Number 2, along the same time period, we have the Federal Reserve banknotes. There were 2 versions. They call this national currency, but they just used the same nameplate. There were national banknotes, which would have charter numbers from each of the individual banks that were backing the money. And then there were the Federal Reserve banknotes, where the individual Federal Reserve banks themselves would be the backers. This particular 50 is the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. You can see it's in pretty good shape. Very cool looking note. Uses the brown seal, the brown numbers here. And if we look at the back, you wouldn't know anything funny about this. Looking at the back, it looks like your standard $50 bill. This particular one from New York, so of course it has the bees like that. That's very cool. And yeah, I'm a big fan of the old 50s, so I like to see 50s in all their different various forms. If you want to collect 50s, don't forget this one, or a national as well. And if you are just into the Federal Reserve banks, you've got the 5, the 10, the 20, the 50, and the 100 for 12 different Federal Reserves that you can put together. So that one is number 2. And finally, number 1. This one might be a stretch for many people, but it's, as far as large denominations, it's the most reachable. I have my $500 bill. This particular one happens to be from 1934. It's the light green seal. It is from New York. Very cool note. Yes, these are real. Yes, these did circulate regularly until 1969. That's when they started taking them out of circulation. Looking at the back, they weren't necessarily designed for circulation. That's why there wasn't a whole lot of thought on the back. It was legal to own these, but for the most part, they were designed for bank-to-bank transfers. But if a bank had one and you had $500, you could most certainly get one. That's why the back is the way it is. Not too exciting there. Anyway, these have jumped in price since I bought mine. You can see the asking price on mine right there. They're about $1,700 now. But the $1,000 bills have gone through the roof. I paid $1,700 for my $1,000 bill, and I think it's about $3,800 right now. That makes those a little tougher to get, but this one with a $1,700 price tag, that's a little closer and a little more reasonable for some people. It's a tough get, but it's a good keynote to have in your collection. Everybody understands a $500 bill. No explanation needed. So that is my top 10 small size notes that you should consider for your collection. If you learned anything new this week, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading all your comments. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.